and good evening to yet another exciting episode of Global Event. It is going to be this chapter especially, it's going to be very exciting as you can see the topic. So I want to welcome you uh, to this brilliant session that we are going to watch today. And as you can see, our speaker, Dr. Ganesh, she has joined us from New York, and Sujata Di, she is always with us. She'll be, moderating the show. But before we begin with this exciting chapter of global event that we do on NDLI platform in association with Wills Global Foundation, I would like to give a very quick view on National Digital Library for my audience, my target audience, students, teachers, for everyone, and my viewer. So the whole concept is one library for entire nation. With this idea, our journey began, and as you can see that this National Digital Library is for everybody. We want to democratize education through National Digital Library. We know our country is democratic, but our education system yet to be democratic in that sense. And digital learning resource is only option through which we can just accomplish that. And our motto is that we want to make it national asset. And it is a single window platform providing learning resources that make e-learning and education accessible to everybody. So our purpose is to make education accessible to every students of this country. We would like to cater to the every corner of this country and bringing to users of all demographic digital repositories from India and the world. Initiated as a pilot project in 2015, as you can see that we have crossed 10 years already. And NDLI portal was nationally launched on 19th June 2018. And successfully, we have completed phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. And as you can see that we have come up with different sorts of changes, both in terms of content, portal, and then its feature and facilities. So we are now in NDLI version 3. Total content we offer is 14 plus content, and nationally licensed content we have 6.5 lakh content. Users we have 10 crore. We have set up almost 7,500 NDLI clubs across the country. Contents are available in 39 Indian languages. NDLI searching available is, the search facility is available in 14 Indian languages. Contents covering various subjects, disciplines for different educational level from KG, I mean kindergarten, to postgraduate students and beyond, and for the lifelong learners. We are providing cloud hosting facility, and 31 institutions, they are already getting such facility from us, and remote assistance we give to 150 institutions having challenges with IDEA initially, and now they are having IDEA set up with the help of NDLI. We do the NDLI setup programs, NDLI club setup programs. We train the library professionals, faculties, whoever interested for NDLI club. We do the training sessions, talks, webinars, and more than 3,000 library professionals have been trained in 33 IDEA related workshops. And we have organized international workshops as well. And also last year, November, we had such a big workshop conference here in IIT Kharagpur. And what is NDLI Club? It is just an online platform. It is a digital dashboard which actually facilitates both the library professionals, faculties, and institution itself just to conduct different sorts of events throughout the year. It is beneficial in the sense that librarians, institution, school, college, they get the chance to promote NDLI. What is there in NDLI? NDLI Club is there to conduct different sorts of online, offline event, and students with such activity, the more they get involved into activity oriented learning, the more they become skillful, acumen increases, they can sharpen their ability, and then their personality also gets better. So you can see the total number of club I have mentioned, almost of 7,500 clubs we are about to hit, and out of which you can see that Maharashtra is topping the chart. We have 1200 plus club only in Maharashtra. As a state, Maharashtra is doing a great show with NDLI and club. And apart from that, southern India is also showing very good awareness about NDLI. And you can see number of online user awareness we have done is 850. Number of offline workshop we have done 80. International workshops we have done 4, and national workshops 5, and idea workshops we have done is 32. So this is the total, our session or seminar, whatever you say, we have done so far. And this is the awards, accolades that we have received from different sort of pedestals in different time, mostly during the time of COVID. Whatever, the way we have served the society, mainly the students and faculties, the way they were benefited by using the NDLI, that was really outstanding. And even in 2024 also we got Gems of Digital Award, which is a very prestigious award in our country, as you all know that. And with everything, the NDL as a learning repository, NDLI club as a platform to do the activity, one thing we would all like to accomplish is learn, share, and let's all grow together and make education accessible to every students of this country. So thank you. This is all about NDLI and our another service, NDLI Club. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, that today's session is going to be very exciting, because AI for humanity, this topic itself is, that brings lots of idea in our mind, that how AI is going to change our life, and AI is for humanity itself. This sounds quite interesting. So before we go into the session, let me just hand over this session to Sujata Di, Dr. Sujata Roy. Without her support, her help, we would not have managed to have such a great show. So Sujata Di will now uh, take over the show. But before that, just quick view on Sujata Di's achievements so far. And she has been a brilliant student, and the way even significantly she is serving to the society, that is very encouraging for us also. She has done MSc in Physics from IIT Kharagpur, postgraduate in Computer Science from ISI Kolkata, Indian Statistical Institute Kolkata, and CQA from Quality Assurance Institute USA. Spent most of her career in the corporate IT sector, working with various private and multinational organizations, till she finally retires from IBM as a general manager of IBM. And after retirement, she has been actively involved in various IIT alumni activities as well as voluntary activities to give back to the society. And that is now her purpose of life, and that's the quest, and the nation at large. And currently, she is the president of Wills Global Foundation India and a board member. And she has also served National Digital Library. She has been always with us almost for 8 years, but still till today, for arranging this global event and moderating the show, Shujata Di is the last choice for us. Shujata Di, very welcome to this show, and as you know, that I also look up to the session when you host it. So welcome to the show, Shujata Di.
Thank you, Manali, for the kind introduction. I'm really humbled.
Thank you.
It's my privilege to be introducing the speaker for today, Uma Ganesh. Dr. Uma Ganesh, she is a board member of Wheels Global Foundation. And that's where actually we work together. She has a PhD from Indian Institute of Technology, Bombay, and an MBA from the Faculty of Management Studies, New Delhi. She's the co-founder and principal trustee of GTT Foundation and strongly drives that. Along with that, she's also the co-founder of 5F World and Skills Alpha, an AI-driven performance management system that enables career pathways and promotes employability and women's empowerment. Thereby training over 1 lakh underprivileged youth every year. Dr. Ganesh also serves on the board of the board of the healthcare company Imoha and has held leadership roles in several industry forums, including the NHRD Network, Bombay Management Association, and Indian Women's Network. She has co authored 4 books and is a regular columnist in the Financial Express. So, Uma, welcome to the session, and I do look forward to listening to you and getting enriched over the next almost an hour or so.
Thank you, Sujata. It's such a pleasure to be on this panel, or rather, to be part of this discussion, and looking forward to our conversation.
Thank you. Okay, coming to the topic for the day, quite an interesting topic, as Manali also mentioned, AI for humanity. AI or artificial intelligence, you must be hearing this topic everywhere nowadays. It's become so common. Even in the ongoing SIR process, we keep hearing of artificial intelligence being used for mapping the data, validating the data, and so on and so forth. It's used quite loosely, I would say, everywhere. But if you would like to define it, it is actually the capability of computational systems to perform tasks that are typically associated with human intelligence. That's how that artificial intelligence word comes in. Human intelligence in terms of learning, reasoning, problem solving, and most importantly, decision making. So today we are not going into the technicalities of the system of AI, but we'll be looking more at the human side of it. How does it benefit us, the humankind? Before going into the question answer, here is a message for the audience here. As we go through the session, you might have questions, so please put them in the chat box, and our speaker will be answering them after the session. Okay, so coming to Dr. Uma Ganesh. Uma, you being such a specialist in this area, where do you see the relevance of AI for humanity? And what could be the possible areas of its benefit to us?
Okay. Thank you, Sujata. Indeed, the mission of NDLI and the mission of Wheels Global are both aligned to looking at how we can serve the society at large. And that's the reason I also thought about this theme for today, AI for humanity. Because when we are all talking about AI, very often we are thinking about AI from the perspective of how AI is enabling large organizations, large corporations, how they are getting the benefit, productivity improvement, or customer engagement, and how they are able to transform themselves. In fact, even in our everyday life, we are all experiencing AI in some form or the other. For instance, if you are accessing e commerce solutions and you are trying to buy a product, or even if you're just searching for a product, AI knows that you have been looking at such products. Maybe you searched for a hotel option, searched for some holiday option. So it just props up even without us actually asking for it again. So that is a simple example of how AI has actually entered into a life already, knowingly or unknowingly. Even in the recent war that is going on in Iran, or for that matter, the disturbances that took place in Myanmar or the protests that took place in Egypt, in all of these scenarios, in some form or the other, algorithms have shaped either the outcomes or have shaped the thought processes of people. So while we are familiar with some of these examples and instances where AI has entered into our lives, today we are going to be looking at how AI can actually impact humanity if we are thoughtful of that. So when we are talking about AI from the perspective of its impact on humanity, we are really looking at, can AI play a role in bringing about equity? Can it create inclusion for all segments of the society, particularly the underprivileged, the women, the physically challenged, and others who have had a not so equal opportunity, can we include them all in terms of how this technology can bridge the gap? And of course, this whole question, therefore, relating to, by doing all of this, can we elevate human dignity? Can we enable everybody to feel equal and respected? And how do we make it sustainable? These are some of the dimensions that we need to think about in terms of how can we put this technology. AI is nothing but another form of technology, or a combination of technologies, tools, data that have come together, which, if they can work in the context of business, they can also be considered as important vehicles that we can put to use to achieve these objectives that I just outlined. In fact, in the recently concluded AI Summit, the Global AI Summit in New Delhi, our Prime Minister also highlighted the fact that we need to think as a global South, how can we, on the strength of the talent that this country possesses with digital technologies, with AI capabilities that we will continue to develop, how can we enable countries from the global south to benefit, the humanity to benefit? So that is really the background with which I have put together this presentation, Sujata. So let me expand a little bit further in terms of what are the human priorities in the context of AI for good or AI for humanity that I'm talking about. The first one we spoke about is inclusive growth, which means whether you are living in rural India or whether you are living in urban slums, we need to look at how AI can give equal opportunities. And today it is possible to bridge that gap of knowledge or expertise. It doesn't have to be only with select people. As we have seen, whether through the NDLI initiatives or Wheels Global initiatives and other such initiatives, we are all looking at how do we democratize knowledge access. And that is really something that we need to focus on in terms of exploiting the capabilities of AI. At the same time, we need to think about AI being ethically put to use. How do we make it transparent, fair, and build a system in such a way that the algorithms are not biased? At the same time, they do not cause any harm to any segment of the society because of the inherent knowledge that we are building into these AI models. We have to remember that when we are talking about humanity, we are talking about people, and therefore people cannot be replaced. It is about how do we augment their capabilities. And therefore, when we are looking at its applications, whether it is solving climate problem or health related benefits that we can provide, or the education challenges that can be bridged, we got to remember that AI needs to be not just powerful, which it is or it can be, but how do we make it purposeful? That is really the goal for AI for Humanity initiative. So I'm going to talk a little bit around healthcare, agriculture, productivity. How do we democratize education? How do we look at sustainability solutions? That's how we can really impact people and their living standards in the coming slides. Let me move on to those. Um, so when we talk about healthcare, we are all familiar. We go to hospitals, we go to nearby doctors, but most of it, particularly in a developing country like India, most of it is when we have a wake-up call that there is something wrong with us. But with the predictive analytics and other elements that we can put into AI, it is possible for us to do early diagnostics and therefore disease prediction can be possible. And we are all aware that in many families we have diabetes or we have blood pressure as part of the DNA of the family, but we do not really do much about it until such time that disease actually comes into our own life. So, can AI help us in predicting this and ensuring that from our early days we are able to take steps so that whether through medication or through other prevention methods, our overall health can be much better than others, other elders in the family. We are familiar, I'm sure, with telemedicine, but how do we scale it up? That is another question we can think about. Drug discovery is a huge opportunity. Today, even after in the lab we have found a solution, it takes anywhere between 8 to 10 years to bring those drugs into the society, make it available to everybody. And today, because of the tools available, scientists can speed up drug discovery processes in the labs and even beyond, where multiple processes have to be gone through from regulatory perspective, from clinical trials perspective. AI can play a phenomenal role, and this can be of immense support for countries like ours where the population is huge and we have myriad health problems, several health issues which are not even currently addressed by scientists or medical systems because those are relatively small in numbers, but ultimately, if it is impacting a few hundreds, we need solutions for them as well. And that's how we can think about better outcomes, better health situations in the coming days. Let me look at agriculture, which is really the backbone for a large percentage of our population in the country. We keep hearing about the farm output being low. We are also experiencing from time to time unexpected drought situations or flooding situations or crops being impacted by pests and diseases. And very often, again, we look at this as what can we do now that these problems we are facing? How can AI actually address all of these situations proactively? And some of you may be aware that today drones are being used to do weather forecasting. Drone technologies are used for mapping certain belts so that combining with other data that we already have, we are now able to figure out how do we, what kind of fertilizers we should use, what kind of preventive methods that we can use to avoid pests, what kind of crops can be grown in certain locations. And a combination of all of these methods will help us enhance the farmer's income. In the context of education, it is really exciting. As I said a little while ago, we do not need to depend upon great teachers, great content only in the cities. But today, AI is actually, you can say, capable of bridging that divide. Even in small towns where the teachers are few in number or the expertise is not available, it can be democratized beautifully. Tutors can be accessed, content of any kind in any language, in any format, is something that we can make available in a very personalized fashion. And that is really the joy of what we are trying to do in our country, of where we are depending upon what is known as the large learning models, which have been built in the Western countries predominantly. We are now able to build those within our country using our own data sets and particularly using vernacular medium. The Sarvam project that many of you may be aware of is one such example of how we can put AI to use in the vernacular mode and customize. And that is how I think we are going to be able to bring the entire country together in terms of the AI capabilities, and AI could be a leveler in that context. I have two more examples to talk about, and then maybe I can pause and take some questions from you, Sujata. One is in the context of rural entrepreneurship. We have 6.5 crore SMEs. That's a mind boggling number. And from time immemorial in India, small entrepreneurs and petty entrepreneurs have been the backbone of our economy. So much so that in the 17th century, India contributed almost 25% of the GDP of the world. And that happened because of small enterprises, the artisans, the traders, the small production systems that we had in the country. Today, almost 28 crore people are employed by these SMEs. Um, and they contribute to Indian GDP to the tune of 30%. But that is very small in comparison with the potential that AI can provide. What we are calling as AI native entrepreneurs, that is, entrepreneurs who can work from their own villages, from their own locations. They do not have to be worried about where do I find the market, because the globe itself, the world itself could become their market. They can build their brand. They don't need to depend upon marketing agencies as such, because there are several tools which are accessible easily. And even the finance and the accounting systems, they will be able to use the tools, and they will have AI supported accounting systems. So it's really exciting to think about how rural entrepreneurship can get a big momentum with the help of AI. And lastly, when we spoke about equity, women and social equity, they go hand in hand largely in our country. A lot of women may be educated, may not have studied beyond school, but they have talent in them, and they have the potential to do small businesses from rural locations. And therefore, whether it is learning, whether it is small business, whether it is accessing input so that they can support their families better in the context of health, or even in farming areas, we have opportunity to provide them with safe systems that will not only give them equity but also give them financial inclusion opportunity. So to me, it looks like it is really exciting to think about AI, how it can really support the humanity. Let me pause here, Sujata, and see if you have any question for me before I move forward.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so that is so good to hear that, and we can see that AI is already making its impact in all in areas like education. Then you said agriculture, rural employment, healthcare, and all that, which is really heartening to know. And we can see we are already using it every day, although we don't realize it, right? Now, having said that, do you see any risks that we should be aware of in terms of these applications or otherwise?
Absolutely. I mean, there are several risks, and as the businesses, put in place a risk mitigation approach, we need to also think about how these risks should be minimized or avoided. The primary risk is going to be, while we are building up all of these capabilities, the haves and have-nots, that sort of a situation, what we call the digital divide, it is very much there. A country where we are still struggling with basic literacy in some parts of the nation. Then there is also the access of technology. We are talking about mobile phones as the primary method for, of course, we have substantially increased the per capita mobile phone usage or access, but still there are large pockets of a population where even women do not have access to the mobile phone, while the male members in the family have access to. So, how do we overcome that risk? the bias that I spoke about earlier, the data sets that are available. You are from ISI, Sujata, so you know very well about the data sets that we use for building AI models, which are predominantly there from educated classes or from a particular community or particular location, and we generalize that data for rest of the country. So there are possibilities of this kind of a data creep, which we will have to be conscious about when we are building solutions for the masses. And yes, we need to educate our population on what data they can share and what data they need to keep private. And this is a very personal matter, but this can create a huge damage if we are not aware about it. So, by not addressing some of these risks proactively, we run the danger of AI becoming another way to enhance your wealth or status in the society. And therefore, we need to think about AI running all of these risks and make sure that while this is a strategic necessity and it is no longer an option, we need to mitigate these risks in a very conscious manner.
Right, right. Yeah, that is good. That is helpful to know. So now that when we look at India as such in terms of our demography, and more importantly, the strengths that we have in India, what do you think would be the framework of success for India?
See, what is really working in our favor, Sujata, is what we call the demographic dividend. We have a young workforce, we can
Yeah.
scale them, we can provide them with all the required skill sets. And the digital public infrastructure that the country has already created, which is really the envy of both the developed and developing nations, the UPI, the Aadhaar, the Jan Dhan, that sort of a public infrastructure which is enabling all of us Indians to access the data, the information, or the products that we want to purchase or buy or sell. We now have an opportunity to create an AI layer on top of that. So, by doing all of this in a very thoughtful and imaginative manner, we have, in fact, an opportunity to play a leadership role on the global front if we are able to demonstrate that AI for humanity, and especially as the largest population in the world, what we can achieve will become a sort of a role model for rest of the world. In order to do this, of course, we need a proper framework. It has to become, as I said earlier, provide AI access almost like a switch of the button, electricity comes on or goes off. We need to have a scenario like that when we're talking about democratizing AI. It should be accessible for everybody in the country. We need to have responsible AI. And um, I spoke about micro entrepreneurship and AI native entrepreneurship. That requires to really be supported in a significant manner. And when we do all of this, we will stop thinking about creating jobs or working towards a job. It is all about how do we build capability in individuals, because even the employers are beginning to think that do I really need to hire only a graduate or somebody who has been trained in a particular domain? But if this person can demonstrate capability, having learned by himself or herself or through some informal means, what is really going to be important in the coming days is the capability set. And therefore, once you have the capability, you can create a service, you can create an offering, you can design a product. That sort of a mindset change is required in the days to come. So, to end my session, I would like to state that the leaders of tomorrow, we need to think about, just as we think about investing in bridges and other physical infrastructure, we need to think largely around how do I build AI infrastructure? How do we think about large scale skilling? for AI? How do we create, AI is not a standalone technology. You can't take an existing system, existing way of working, existing way of learning and teaching, and say, let me apply AI there. We have to reimagine all the systems. We need to question the fundamentals of every sector. Therefore, there will be a lot more need for collaboration between education and technology, between education and industry, between healthcare and institutions which are enabling students to learn about building models, between healthcare systems and science. And the bridging gap, the gap can be bridged with the help of AI. To do all of this, we all know that it is not just technology, it is about human and technology working together. And that is what we call as dual intelligence. That is going to be very important. And leaders have to take a call in terms of, where do I bring in technology? Where do I put people? And where can they both collaborate and create beautiful, long lasting, impact creating solutions for the humanity as a whole? So, on that note, I end my session, Sujata. And thank you very much for inviting me and having this wonderful session for all of us, for all the viewers and listeners. And thank you also, NDLI, for having me on the session. Over to you, Sujata.
Thank you, Uma. So yes, we learned a lot how AI is already helping us in so many areas. But what is important now, what you said is, now the countries, they should now be investing on AI for social impact. That should be very, I mean, it should be very well, their focus should be on the social side of it, and so that is accessible to anyone. It's responsible AI, as you mentioned. And I like the term you said, jobs economy to capability economy. So even the audience who's here today, it's the days for just learning one language, one programming language, or just some programming skills. Those are gone. But just look at a wider space and look at how you can grow your capability. Once you have grown, developed that, you will be open to so many other opportunities that you yourself can develop. You yourself can build. You don't have to really go for employment somewhere. So that ending on that note, and for this year, I do understand that the countries need to do a lot of large scale skilling. So that is important. So let's focus on that as well, as a country, as a nation, and even globally. So with that note, thank you very much, Uma, for that really enriching session. We would now open it up for question answer for for the audience in here. For that, I would like to hand over to Manali.
Manali, you are on mute.
Yes. Thank you so much, madam. I mean, your session was really interesting, and I also quite like that part that we need responsible AI, and also the when NDL talk about democratization of education, and similarly on the same pedestal you talk on this democratization of AI. So that was quite interesting. I found it interesting, and I'm sure that my the whoever watching our session, they would also have that's taken it same way. So now let us take the question. uh, First question, you can see, ma'am, we got a question. Is AI affordable for small farmers?
Yeah.
Please discuss.
Yeah. So this is a very apt question. Very often, when we think about AI, we think it is very expensive, and can I really put to use? That is really the beauty of when we speak about AI for humanity. You see, today there is a lot of content, lot of information already available, and it all depends upon, when you say affordable for small farmers, what are you looking for? If you're looking for a solution, let's say around pest control, you can use any of the generative AI tools, and they can customize the solution for you if you know what kind of keywords we need to put into the question. It is in a particular, for a particular type of crop, it is in this particular location, it is in this particular season, and I want a solution within so much cost. If we define some of these parameters, of course, any of the many of the generative AI tools can give you some options. However, today most of it is available in English. Very soon, when we think about the next 2 to 3 years time frame, some of the developments that are happening in India, we will be able to get the response in a very lucid manner in vernacular languages. Some of it is already available, but a lot of it will begin to be made available. And that's how small farmers can definitely benefit.
So the question was very interesting. And then the next question, how is it useful for women and what are its benefits for women and the upcoming generation?
See, again, this question is rather broad. If you can narrow down the question to say, how is it useful for women for education or for setting up business, or you are already doing some small business and you want to scale it up? So it depends upon what is the objective. In general, AI is not concerned about gender, it can be put to use by anyone. However, women specifically, as I highlighted earlier, why I'm saying women could get enhanced social equity is on account of the fact that women, particularly in rural areas, they may not have had the opportunity to study much. They may not have the opportunity to come out of their homes or villages to explore what kind of markets are there. So that is why a lot of women are dependent upon male members of the family for their spending, or they are not independent. Now, with AI tools which are accessible on your mobile phone, you can find answers for all of these and many other questions, including setting up community. And then we have something called ONDC, which the government of India has set up. You can also use that for marketing or finding buyers. So several opportunities are like that for women. And when you say upcoming generations, I feel you are probably referring to your children, the children of the women. Of course, that is where for education it can play a significant role.
Next question is from Jayashree, Assam, Jayashree Kalita. How can AI empower women entrepreneurs and small businesses? I think you have already touched some portion of it, but again, I mean, if I mean the particularly focusing on the business, if you can just
Small
share.
business.
Yeah. See, I can give you some examples. A lot of women these days are getting on to WhatsApp communities. They are building communities within Instagram. So these are all the beginnings of forming community. Now that the communities are formed, then how do I look at uh, enlarging the community, and how do I look at every individual in the community, and based on their profiles, what can I sell for them? Those are the areas where AI can enable women entrepreneurs or small businesses to understand better and customize their product offering. Apart from this, there are many schemes available from the government, and they may require you to put in place certain quality systems, some quality checks, which you may not be able to access, let's say, living in Assam. Maybe that capability resides in Bangalore or Kolkata. And through AI tools, you will be able to check who are these other organizations or people that you can connect with. And you can also get to understand how good they have been, what has been their credibility of how they have been able to support people like you. So there are, different ways in which these can be put to use. And finally, what you have to really think about is when you say empowerment, what is empowerment for you? Is empowerment ability to earn money? Empowerment, is it ability to get more information? Empowerment is legal understanding as to what are your rights. So that is how you will need to think through, and I'm sure you can find but you have to safeguard. You have to be very careful what you information you provide. You need to know who's the person on the other side that you're interacting with. So you need to be balancing all of these when you're using AI tools.
And then last question today we have, in what ways can AI support education in remote or rural areas?
Yeah, as I discussed earlier, NDLI is already providing access to a whole lot of education content from around the country, from the best sources. But over and above that, where AI can play a role is customizing to your needs. If you are in a remote location where you want to understand certain topic in the ways that are most suited for you, maybe you want to look at it in video formats, maybe you wanted to learn in small chunks, maybe you want to connect with an expert in a particular topic and have a discussion or mentoring from that person. All of these are different ways in which AI can support. And that is really the beauty of this technology, that you don't have to be living in a large city to access this kind of content. But most important thing we all have to remember is that we can't abdicate our responsibility of learning to AI. We need to take ownership for it ourselves, because end of the day, we need to be connected within ourselves, and we should not lose touch of our soul. That is how human development will ultimately happen. In other words, technology should not overpower you. Technology can make things easier for you, but who we are, what we need, how we want to really develop ourselves, that kind of a conversation within ourselves is equally very, very important. And that is how humanity will continue to develop, whatever technology comes and whatever may be the scenario. We have to remain in touch with ourselves.
So, empathy with our own self is very important in order to embrace whatever the technological advancement we talk
Absolutely.
about. Thank you so much, Uma Madam. All the questions, the way you have answered, I think the viewers, they have got enough informations on their questions they provided. And now I would like to know a bit about Wills Global Foundation from Shujata Di, because see, as our viewer, you also know, ma'am, that we do the session from NDLI platform in association with Wills Global Foundation. But now this is the time to let them know what actually this foundation does.
Sure.
Shujata Di.
Okay, so as Manali just mentioned, this program itself is organized by NDLI in collaboration with Wheels Global Foundation. So, what is this Wheels Global Foundation all about? It is actually a not for profit organization created by the alumni of all the Indian Institutes of Technology. In fact, it all came up from a challenge thrown up by our late president, Dr. Abdul Kalam, when in a Pan IIT event in the year 2006, he said he was a keynote speaker, and he told the IITians that you have all done so well for yourselves. Now, why don't you do something to solve the problems of rural India? And that is when the alumni of all the IITs, they came together and formed this organization called Wheels Global Foundation. And so, and we in 26, we are now 20 years, we have come from there. And our family has grown. So it's no longer just IIT alumni, but we also have people like doctors, lawyers, and other professionals within our ambit to take care of all the problems that we solve. So, what is your objective? The goal is to engage the IIT system and alumni networks to drive technology based solutions, technology which is our strength, to solve the problems of rural India in terms of clean water, affordable healthcare, renewable energy, access to education, rural livelihoods, and all in a sustainable manner. We are all volunteers here, and we just try to do a small bit in terms of giving back to the nation. And now we have set ourselves a mission to touch the lives of 20% of rural India by the year 2030 by applying technology. And we are confident of not just meeting it, but surpassing it. And here in the audience, if any of you are interested in joining hands with us, being a volunteer and work in some of the projects of Wheels Global Foundation, you're most welcome, and you can get in touch with Manali and she can guide you to us. With that, I hand it back to Manali.
Thank you so much, Sujata Di. And we can see the kind of work you all are doing through this Wheels Global Foundation. It is huge, but very responsible work indeed. Thank you so much, Uma Madam, for joining us in today's show. And you were so far away sitting in New York, and so early morning you joined us. And Sujata Di, thank you so much once again for organizing this global event every time for NDLI. And
Thank you.
last but not the least, my viewer, they are always with us, and we know that they eagerly wait for our global event since the day we published the event on the social platform as well as on NDLI. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. And in coming month, again, we will see you with some exciting chapter of global event. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank
Manali,
you,
and
Uma.
thank you, Sujata.
Thank you.
Such a pleasure to be on this show.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank
Uma.
you very
It
much.
was excellent listening to you.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.